good? What's good? What's good? Everybody, wake up, wake up, wake up. This is the Remix Morning Show, and I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And yes, y'all are here. This is a remix rerun. We don't do reruns regular. We remix them. So it's half live. Well, this part is live. And then we're going to run over and we're going to bring you back a dope rerun, which today we're going to go to the Black Liberation Army one, when we got soldier stories, a bunch of different people that's been out on the field doing their thing, telling the stories of how they got down. So I'm glad y'all tuned in. Make sure y'all hit that like, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, and tell a friend that this is what it is. It's a rainy, gloomy day in Georgia, but I'm out here breathing, so I can't complain. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and get to our first one. Big up Anthony D. Big up Lisa. Big up Ed. Everybody, new role. I see you out there. You know what I mean? I hope everything is good. Y'all ready to have a great New Year's. And we ready to bring y'all back some dope shows starting the 4th of July. Damn, not the 4th of July. 4th of January. We'll be back the 4th of January next week. So new remix shows. So stay tuned. With that said, let's go ahead and get into the BLA, Black Liberation Army Soldier Stories. Y'all ready? Let's get it.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this very special edition of Black Power Media's look at a soldier story in the Black Liberation Army history. I'm Jared Ball. We're here with my crew, Kalanji Jama Changa and Kamal Franklin, the riot starter. And we are very happy and welcoming of all of our members. We don't see a live count as we normally would with a live because it's a members thing. So definitely make yourself known in the chat, please. And welcome to everybody. And especially welcome to our special, very special guests, Sekou Odinga, Thomas Blood McCreary, and Daruba Bin Wahad, who are here to help us get through this conversation of a soldier story in the Black Liberation Army. Good morning, everybody. Welcome.
What's happening?
Hey, peace.
Morning. Yeah.
So I know in some cases time is a little short. We want to get right to it, and we have a lot, obviously, to cover. Very excited about this conversation. For me, this bucket list gathering. So Daruba, I know you wanted to go ahead and lay some things out before the other brothers get involved. Before all of us get involved, and then we're going to hear from everybody, and then get into some Q&A, and then some longer discussion as long as we can go. So, again, welcome Daruba and Blood and Sekou, and Daruba, the floor is yours. Good morning.
You're on mute, Daruba.
You're on mute. You're on mute.
First of all, I want to thank Jared, and can you hear me?
Yep.
Man, why is everybody blanking out? Everybody's rebooting, man. What's happening?
No, that's just you.
I want to thank you. Oh, that's me. Yeah, we got short bandwidth over here. That's why I'm in this 5-star hotel with all this noise in the back. But anyway, first of all, I want to thank you, Jared, and the Black Power Network, Kalanji and Kamal, for keeping it real and getting our story out, the real radical tradition. I want to talk about the BLA, but I want to, do a short thing because Sekou got to bounce in a few minutes. And I want Sekou really to talk about some of the things, especially the international section of the Black Panther Party and the BLA, how we had the solidarity with the armed struggles of other in Africa, the Palestinians in Guinea-Bissau, in the Congo, and this is the history that belongs to our people. And also, I want to mention how the Black Panther Party, the Black Liberation Army, was part and parcel of the Black Panther Party's 10-point program, especially when it came to military service. And if we notice in the Black Panther Party program and platform that it says that citizens or members of the Black Panther Party will not be members of any other military army except the Black Liberation Army. And there was a point in time in 1971 when the COINTELPRO program, the counterintelligence program that was aimed at the Black Panther Party, came to culmination, came to full fruit with the
Looks like we got our first hiccup, and it didn't happen until we went live. We've been chatting with him for a minute here, and without a problem. So, go ahead, Daruba. You back with us, or maybe not? And Kalonji, you're
Maybe
muted
I
too.
should get on my own router. I think I should get on my own router because it's telling me having trouble connecting. This is often caused by unstable. Okay, so I'm gonna use my route. Oh, where's my iPhone? The blue one. Yeah, I'm gonna use my router.
Mm-hmm.
1 second. I'm just gonna switch routers.
Anyway, everybody, we are endeavoring to get this hiccup taken care of. While we're here, though, hold on, Daruba. Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, before we get cut off again, I wanted to say that the counterintelligence program by 1969, 70, and 71 had devoted over 70% of its activities towards the New Left, and over 50% of that, 60% of that was aimed at the Black Panther Party in particular. And the idea of the Black Panther Party, the idea of the counterintelligence program was to not only destroy the party, but to discredit its leadership among the left and globally in terms of our solidarity movement and solidarity activities. And so by 1971, Huey P. Newton and others believed that they were in danger, that their lives was threatened. And this came about as a result of a document that was released by the counterintelligence program claiming that the Panther 21 rejected the leadership of Huey P. Newton, and that in fact he was no longer the leader of the revolutionary movements in the United States. And so Huey P. Newton at that time reacted to that. He purged the Panther 21, and much of it is in the documents. But members of the New York 21, myself included, Setawayo Tabor, Sekou Odinga was already in Africa. He managed to elude the dragnet that was put out to kill him and capture him on April 1st, and he continued his work in North Africa with the Black Panther Party's international section. And to the public, the split in the Black Panther Party came to light when Huey P. Newton and Eldridge Cleaver did a joint interview on a major television station, and the dispute spilled over to name calling, and the section that Sekou was in was purged from the Black Panther Party by Huey P. Newton and his cohorts in the Central Committee. And of course, those of us in the 21 who were out were in danger of being set up and murdered. So we went underground, and it was the underground, the BLA, that came into notoriety on Malcolm X's birthday in 1971, May 19th, when two armed agents of the state were shot. And the New York City Police Department began a campaign to go after the original members of the Black Panther Party and the Panther 21 who had got acquitted. And this is all in the counterintelligence documents. So I just want to end there, and I want to talk later about the politics of the BLA and why we thought of ourselves as necessary as the Underground Railroad was necessary to the anti-slave movement and the escape of runaway slaves, runaway Africans. We were at war. We felt that our community was occupied by foreign entities, the armed agents of the state, who had no regard for our life and limb, which we see today on a regular basis, and that only with a political consequence that would correspond on to them understanding that for us, for Black people in America, democracy was not just an empty word. That true democracy relied on a common sense of humanity, and that until white supremacy and white supremacist organizations that oppressed us understood that, until there was an equal distribution of the pain, there will be no democratic possibilities or dispensation in America. So above ground, we talked about the Rainbow Coalition. We talked about bringing all working class people and poor people and people of color together to form a third political party, to form a force that could be empowered. But at the same time, we understood that violence is as American as apple pie, as H. Rap Brown, Jamil Alameen said. And so therefore we understood that unless we were able to exact the consequence on the armed agents of the states and those who gave them their commands and orders, they will never consider us a human. They will never deal with us with justice and equality. And so that was the basic thrust of the BLA. And so I really want to turn this over to Sekou, and so he could talk about many of the things that the party did, that he's and delegations that we sent to different parts of the world, different parts of Africa. Many people don't even know that we had a delegation that went to North Korea, when North Korea was considered a hermit kingdom. And I don't know, I believe Sekou went with the delegation. But Sekou could speak better about what was happening with the Black Panther Party internationally. We was saving Sekou for the last because that's the best of it, but he could get in here now. And so I just want to say, Jared, that turn this over to Sekou Odinga, my comrade, my brother, and someone I adore and respect immensely. So Sekou, you got it, bro.
Okay. Power to the people.
Power
Free
to
the
the people.
land.
More power to the people, free the land.
I think Deruba laid it out pretty clearly, you know. I mean, the things that I would have to add maybe be more in particulars that I were involved in, but in terms of what we were dealing with, the reasons for the Black Liberation Army, if you will, was a need for some kind of self-defense, some sort of consequences to be applied to our enemies, because that occupying force that Deruba was talking about came in the uniform of local police departments all over the country, and they were, as they continue to do today, attacking us at will. They were always over their doors were always open for white races to join them and to get their particular type of violence out against the Black community. As today we see, like in Minneapolis with George Floyd and other places, we see these white racists in the police uniforms murdering our people. So we felt that there was a need for a consequence. But to follow Deruba's format, let me say a little bit about the international section of the Black Panther Party. It really came about because the then Minister of Information, Eldridge Cleaver, had went underground, and he went to Cuba, and that's where he first tried to start an international section of the Black Panther Party. But the Cubans had a different idea of what we should be doing, you know. And their idea was that we should become part of the people and cut sugarcane. And that didn't leave us much time to do the work that we wanted to do. So we left Cuba and went to Algeria, where we was welcomed with open arms. The Algerian government was a revolutionary government at that time, and they welcomed us with open arms. And when they heard what we wanted to do, they not only agreed to allow us to do it, they also agreed to help us do it. By giving us a building, they gave us an embassy to work out of, and a small stipend every month to help pay the bills, the electric bills, the gas bills, etc. You know, so they were very, very helpful and very what's the word I'm looking for, Deruba? They were very instrumental in helping us build a international section. At the time, they did this not only for the Black Panther Party, but they did it for all anti-colonial, anti-imperialist groups around the world. All the different African liberation struggles from South Africa, from West Africa, from Southeast Africa, all of them were there. You know, you had MPLA there, you had ANC, you had Frelimo, you had them all. You had PLO, you know, and so we all were in Algeria, and we were all able to meet with each other openly whenever we wanted to. We saw our mission over there as gathering information about the struggles going on around the world and getting information about our struggle here in this country out to the world, and building relationships that would help us in our different struggles around the world. In terms of help, many of the progressive governments offered small actions of help, like the Chinese government, the Cuban government, obviously the Algerian government. They all, a number of other governments made it clear that they would help us on the down low, but they didn't want to have no open clash with the United States. So most of our help came from anti-colonial organizations. You know, for me, I think I would say that the PLO at that time was our closest comrades. I did a lot of traveling with them myself. I went to the second symposium, Palestinian student symposium, and with Phil Marshall, DC, where we delivered a major address of solidarity with the Palestinian people. This was in I believe it was 1971. You know, and from there, they offered us, the Palestinian organization, PLO, offered us any aid that they could give us. They didn't have, as you know, they were a struggling anti-colonial organization themselves. And so they didn't have that much, but whatever they had, they opened their doors for any kind of training that they could give us, whether it be with arms, explosives, whatever. They said, we're here for you, come, and we'll give it to you, whatever we can. You know, some of us took them up on some of that, you know. So basically, that's what we were doing in the international section. We were making contact with other anti-imperialist, anti-colonialist people who were struggling against the imperialists, the NATO gang, you know, led by the U.S. And so most of the folks out there in those struggles could see the United States as leading those who were oppressing them or aiding those who were oppressing them. So they would always tell us, whenever you all get it straight over there, it'll be very easy for us to get it straight over here. We need y'all to do whatever y'all can to get them up off your backs, because if you get them up off your back, we'll be able to push them off our back real easy. You know, without the U.S. support, most of the brothers that were struggling around the world felt that they would be able to easily deal with their local jokers. And so that we were able to make a lot of good contacts and a lot of good coalitions with brothers out there. I traveled, like I said, with the PLO a lot. I did some traveling through Lebanon, to Palestine, to a few other places. I went into Africa, East Africa especially.
Could I just interject something here, Sekou, for the audience? It's very important for people to understand what Sekou was saying about the enormous amount of respect that other liberations movements had for the Black Panther Party and the Black radical movement in the United States. A lot of folks don't know that, and now that in this age of hashtag movements, this is not understood. The international solidarity with the Palestinians, with the people in the Congo, with the people around the world was concrete. The NLF offered us concrete assistance. The North Koreans, the revolutionary movements in Africa. This is very important for people to understand that in this day and age, with globalization and the U.S. as a new age empire, the solidarity amongst people, oppressed people, is of paramount importance, especially now as empire begins to transition from fossil fuel to green energy, and the elite and the corporate states are now going to suffer or have to change their deal, and also because of the technological revolution that we are living in right now with this communications and the weaponization of data. So I think people really need to understand what Sekou was saying here when he talked about all these liberation movements were in Algeria at that time. And these liberation movements respected the Black Panther Party and saw us and our people struggle as one with theirs.
Quick question, Sekou. So the time period you're talking about for clarity would be after the 21 case?
During the 21 case, even before the 21 case was over. Okay. We started in 1970. And we opened the international section of the Black Panther Party in 1970, around the summer.
And in New York, right after we tried, remember when we tried the decentralization and community control stuff, Sekou and Blood back in 69, I think it was 69, wasn't it, 68? And so we started a solidarity committee in New York. The Black Panther Party chapter had a coordinating committee with other organizations and student groups in New York, with the Palestinians here, Palestinian students and things here in America. So it was all connected, and it was all part of the type of internationalism and anti-imperialism that the Black Panther Party exhibited at that time. And this was advanced for Black people. The only other people, organizations that saw our struggle in these terms was Malcolm X at first, and then actually the Black Panther Party, and then Martin Luther King, as we all know, came around to understanding imperialism and capitalism and war in the same manner that we had. And but of course he was assassinated. But yes, it was international solidarity is crucial to any movement for liberation today.
We should bring Blood into the conversation. I think for folks who study the history of the Panthers and the PLA, folks get to know Dhoruba and Sekou because you guys have had cases that went public, and so I don't know if a lot of people know Blood's history as much as they should. And I was thinking about this too. I think I read that same article. Somebody posed an interesting question, Blood. that you had said that the split in the party wasn't necessarily an East Coast, West Coast thing, as was popularly portrayed. And so can you touch on that a little bit too?
Yeah, when the split went down, a lot of chapters was expelled around the country. It wasn't East and West Coast because San Francisco went with New York, LA went with New York, and you had other chapters throughout the country went with New York. So it really wasn't a split. And even today, we still have strong solidarity, especially with the LA chapter, especially with them. In fact, Sekou and some others, myself, we're going to be going out to LA on the 3rd for a memorial for Chip Fitzgerald, the longest held Black Panther Party in its history. That brother did almost 52 years, and he passed away. And show you how much fear they had for him when they carried him out of, I think it was Folsom, to the hospital. He had had a heart attack. They still kept him chained up with 4 California Highway Patrolmen guarding him. They never took the chains off of him. That's how much they feared him. I think that the COINTELPRO once again portrayed it as a split between the East and West Coast. And that was not the case. That was not the case. We were always welcome in LA. That LA chapter always welcomed us. And many other chapters. You got to keep in mind when that split, the so-called split, when it happened, Huey and the rest of the Central Committee moved a lot of people from their locations and closed those chapters and moved them to Oakland. They was getting into politics, running for mayor, running for city councilman. And that's where they was moving the party to. Many of us at that time, when that so-called split went down, was captured. The BLA had went into full swing, say really from 70 to 74, 5. We got captured in 73. You know, like that's why I was telling brother Jared earlier. It's important that we understand that history because it's still portrayed as an East-West Coast thing. And as I said, that was not the case.
Would you say it's more of an ideological split? Would you guys say it was more of an ideological split between?
It was an ideological split. Also, it got into be a bloody confrontation. We lost a lot of people.
Well, Blood is absolutely right. It wasn't just the East-West dichotomy because a lot of people that came up in the rap game and try to equivocate Tupac and Biggie. This East Coast West Coast rivalry is some type of cultural tribalism that exists in the Black community. It's not the case. Many of the Black people at that time in the Black Panther Party, when the Black Panther Party first came into existence in 1966, the West Coast Black Panther Party, with Huey Newton and Bobby Seale, many of the people that lived there, many of the families that lived there were newly migrant families from Texas, from Louisiana, and that came there during the war to work to support the war effort at the piers and the docks. So the Black community in Los Angeles and San Francisco was not as Afrocentric, you might say, as much as and tied into the African experience, the African American cultural experience in the North as New York and Chicago and Boston and Philly. And if you notice, Fred Hampton came from Chicago. And it's very important to understand that one of the reasons why New York chapter it was portrayed that way because the New York chapter was the money cow, the money cow of the Black Panther Party, especially after the 21 were arrested. And so that was the basis for Lumumba and the brothers in prison believing that the West Coast Central Committee had abandoned them, and therefore that discontent was recognized by the counterintelligence program and used to ultimately split the party along the lines of more of ideology and region than East Coast, West Coast, as Blood was pointing out.
Exactly.
So ideologically, they were moving to the right on the Central Committee
Absolutely.
was clearly moving to the right, and we were holding strong on the left. We
Absolutely.
Blood just mentioned that they was now they wanted to run for mayor, they wanted to run for city council, they wanted. We were a revolutionary organization in our minds, you know, and we continued from that mindset. So it was definitely ideological. We should make no mistake about that. That this was not a East Coast West Coast struggle, as the Blood pointed out. A whole lot of those who were expelled by the West Coast Central Committee were on the West Coast. People like Geronimo Pratt, DC Cox, Donald Cox, that whole crew, all of them. There was a whole lot of them over there that rode with the East Coast, if you will, because of the ideological differences that they didn't believe that we needed to go into that type of politics. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, let me just say this, Blood. I think, Jared, I think that it's very important for the audience to understand just what Sekou said, that, you know, I haven't really put it in those terms before, but Sekou hit the nail on the head. Huey Newton and the Central Committee were moving to the right. And at that time, people don't know that the assassination of Fred Hampton in Chicago and the arrest of the 21 and the purging of the 21 was designed to deal with the internal reconstruction of the Black Panther Party Central Committee that we had basically struggled with. Setawayo and myself and others had basically struggled with when Huey got out of prison, with the idea that the West Coast was the sole seat of all the leadership of the party, which was now national. And they agreed, and we talked about how we could put, or how we would choose the new Central Committee, how would we comprise the new Central Committee. And one of the things that we understood was, like in the different chapters, like in LA with G, in Chicago with Fred, in Boston with the folks up there, the sister up there in Baltimore and New York, there were certain brothers and sisters like Lumumba and Sekou himself who were active in the Pan-African and Black liberation movement before they joined the party. They were activists in their respective cities before the party, and when the party came to their location, they joined the party because of its revolutionary and left nationalist politics, as Sekou was pointing out. And this meant to the counterintelligence program that if they let that type of leadership coalesce in the Black Panther Party, it would be terrible. And so what they did is they made sure that Fred got killed. And if you notice how Fred got killed, he got killed by an agent who worked for the FBI's Black Desk. If you notice how the Black Panther Party was, the 21 were arrested, and then later Bobby Seale. Bobby Seale was arrested because of a supposed kidnapping and murder that originated in New York as a consequence of the Panther 21. When they killed Alex Rackley in New Haven. So we need to understand the counterintelligence program just didn't kill Fred because he could talk good, because he was charismatic. They didn't just lock us up in New York because, you know, and Assata Shakur in New York, because Afeni would be Tupac's mother in the future. They went after us because, as Sekou said, we adhered to the revolutionary line, and those of us who were in New York were in those cadres that pursued that revolutionary agenda.
You know, there's one point that I want to make. I think that when people study the history of the Black Panther Party, you need to keep in mind, you have to talk about which era of the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party came into being in 1966. From 66 to 71, I would consider that a revolutionary organization. After the killing started, we didn't touch on that with the West Coast coming to New York and murdering people out there. We decided that we were going to take the fight to them. Fuck dealing with each other. That's when the Black Liberation Army really went into full gear. The propaganda states that we were outlaws, we were not known by the community did not support us. That's bullshit. All you had to do after the action happened the night before is go into any local bar, barbershop, hair salon, and the black people in those places was ranting and raving about those brothers and sisters the night before, how they took the fight to the enemy. They say we was not a part of the black community. We are the black community. Where do you think we came from? You understand? We had no problems taking that fight to them because under the conditions that we were living under, especially in New York, with them killing kids, throwing motherfuckers off the rooftop. We said we cannot go on any longer like that. We cannot tolerate shit like that, just as some of what's going on today. And people stepped up to the plate and started dealing with them. And then I want to say this here, it's not egotistical.
Oh man, this stinks into that.
When you took the fight to them,
No, I put it.
when you took the fight to them, you found out they actually was cowards. They were actually cowards. When them gun battles went down, they wasn't performing like they said they was performing. You understand? But that's another story. But you know, I think that the history of the party has to be understood in terms. It was people in the Black Panther Party who came in certain periods in time. If you talk to a lot of people, they don't even know what we're talking about. They don't know that period from 66 up to 70, 71. They talk about 1981. So it depends on who you're talking to. To get the true history of the Black Panther Party, it must be told in sections. When the party was active, when it was functioning, when it became inactive, you know, because like I've spoken to Panthers and you seem like we were out of two different organizations. So I think that's imperative that you understand the history. When people tell you they were in the Black Panther Party, what period in time are you talking about? We don't know anything. We had liberation schools in New York and Harlem and elsewhere, but that was our main focus. We had sickle cell anemia clinics. We had doctors coming in from NYU Medical School and Columbia that was treating people on Wednesday nights. They would turn the office into a clinic, put sheets up, and they did their work, you know. But I think, and what it bothers me, you know, that part of the party and breaking it down into periods in time that you were in the party, because for us in New York, the party only lasted for about 3 years, from 68 to 70 or 71. Then the BLA took over. There was no Black Panther Party chapter really functioning in New York City after 71. Bilal was out there in the streets, and contrary to what people may think, police brutality decreased. Once they knew that there was going to be a consequence, that if you go and murder some kids out there, we're going to deal with your ass. If there's going to be wailing in the Black community, we're going to have some wailing in the white or the police officer community. Let them know what pain is really all about, you know. So, you know, I consider myself blessed because I've served with some people, man, some of the baddest motherfuckers ever stepped out of history. And I was honored to have been there. People, I'm gonna give you one example, I'm gonna be quiet. Listen, Twyman Myers, you need to study his history. He was the same age as Fred Hampton when Fred Hampton died. That brother, you know, I mean, when they murdered him, the EMS had to pry that 9mm out of his hands. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's how much commitment that he had. But anyway, if he doesn't.
Well, Blood, I don't want you to stop. In fact, I'd like to hear a little bit more, to the extent you all find possible in this very public setting, to talk about the transition from the Panthers to the BLA. How did that happen? What was that like? And what what of those stories, Blood, that you're talking about that we don't hear, can you share a little bit more of that you feel, comfortable and appropriate in this space to share?
Can I add one question too?
Sure.
So one of the things that, people who try to study the BLA talk about, and again, this is whatever y'all can discuss, is the structure. So a lot of folks hear that the structure was not a quote unquote top down structure, but a cell structure where folks they were given general descriptions of what was supposed to happen, and then they carried out actions as they thought that they were sort of supposed to do as related to those descriptions. So as y'all talk about the development, could you also talk about, as you can, like how did structure work for the unit?
Let me say this from my involvement. There was a brother out of Jamaica, Queens, named John Thomas. He took about 17 kids to Atlanta, Georgia. They rented a farmhouse. In that farmhouse, they trained for months. People became better shooters. Their shit became structured and scientific. Like any young people, once you teach them how to shoot, and they're good on them targets, they get anxious. They want to make moves now. And some people made some moves in Atlanta. It caused a big disruption. People had to scatter across the country. But the structure that I function under, we function as cells. We made decisions in those cells. We tried to contain it. We wanted it structured, but we didn't want it tight like that. As it turned out, a bank was being expropriated, and 2 cells show up at the same motherfucking bank. We had to have it hooked up where we would have some type of information. What the fuck is going on? Because we could have got out there and shoot out ourselves there. But it was things like that with loose structure. You needed some type of structure. In the beginning, it was cool. But then it got outrageous, man. As I said, once you teach young people how to shoot them guns, they want to put it into action. And it wasn't time. And JT was trying to keep a tight rein on that, him being an older brother and have had some experience. And I think he did a good job. Out of all of his other flaws and shortcomings, that brother did a hell of a job, man. Because remember, Sekou and Larry Mack, them people, they were gone. They were in Algeria or Cuba or wherever they were at. And so he was trying to maintain shit to keep it right. Now he had his faults, shortcomings. He had that. But each
let me say something. Could I say something, Blood? When Blood says that, I don't want people to think that like Blood said, the BPP and the BLA went through different phases over the years. Right. But initially, because we did have an underground to the Black Panther Party when it was above ground, we always had brothers that functioned more or less in the background. G used to do that before he was brought up to deal with the LA chapter. But we did function, as Blood said, as independent cells. And these independent cells, of course, had the same orientation from the Black Panther Party in terms of its politics and in terms of the enemy. So, but they did have, as Blood was pointing out, tactical initiative and tactical abilities to do what they had to do. It's very important for people to understand that what our lesson from this is, our radical tradition, was how do we organize a legal struggle, above ground struggle with extra legal struggle, and it's necessary. The same way the U.S. government has its black ops and its CIA to carry out those things that it wants to plausibly deny that they had anything to do with. It's the same way that a people's movement, and you have to remember that the Black Panther Party had called for the year before a united front against fascism. And one of the things that Sekou and Blood, especially Blood, had pointed out is that there was the Black Panther Party at different phases from 1966 to 1970, whatever. And Sekou was talking about how it moved to the right and how they were moving to the right. It's very important to understand what that means. And what that really means is that the Elaine Browns, the
David
FBI,
Hilliard.
the David Hilliard, but David Hilliard was more than just a white right moving to the right in terms of his politics. David Hilliard was probably in good likelihood a source of information for the FBI. And the documents seem to indicate that, at least the documents I have in my possession, but that's another show.
Can I ask you all real quick, because the rightward trajectory that you all suggest of folks out west, at least in part, and you mentioned engaging the electoral political process. Do you three not see any value in that? Is there no radical engagement in electoral politics? Is there any radical way to, or what would be? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I mean, Blood and Sekou, we were all there when the parties first started in New York. One of our first projects was decentralization and community control of police. And we actually got it. We organized and worked on it, coalesced with other organizations in New York, and got it on the ballot. We got community control on the ballot, and it was the police union who flipped the script and confused the masses of people in New York to vote no if they meant community control, and vote yes if they meant what they call it now, a community
or community control,
no.
community review board.
Community review board. That's what the politicians in New York, black and white, black ones, and that's what the politicians in New York and the mayor in New York, and at the behest of the police union, that's how they flipped the referendum.
We were very involved in the whole educational struggle here in New York, also, when during the independent school struggles here in New York, where the Board of Education run by the Jews, the Al Shanker and the rest of them, were demanding that they have the whole say of how our children were to be educated, and the people were saying, no, we want a say in how our children are educated. And then we started moving towards taking that power to educate our own children. And it was a real struggle here in New York. That was a real history that needs to be understood. So we always understood that we needed to work within and without the system. It was never we never had that we would just work with nobody that's involved with electoral politics. But we were not an electoral political organization. We did not. We were not elected. We didn't run for office. We didn't run to be. I didn't run to be the section leader of the Bronx. That wasn't the one. That wasn't. I wasn't voted that. I was. They made me that. The committee here, the Central Committee of New York, the leadership in New York did that. We wasn't running for office here in New York, the Black Panther Party. Although we did work with some of the office holders in New York, you know.
I want to say, as the generation under y'all, man, salute. We are always honored. First of all, it's an honor to even know y'all. But secondly, I fall between comrade and fan. I'm gonna just keep it gangster because of the fact that because of folks like El Hajj Malik Shabazz and you all, you know what I mean. You've helped us to stay grounded. I want to one of the things you all been talking about has been the whole counterinsurgency part of it, right? And we know that there was folks like Gene Roberts who was involved in Malcolm's situation, and also I know that I've been told that he was one of the founding members of the New York chapter. Can y'all speak to that?
I don't know about Jim being no founding member.
He wasn't a founding member. I have to take some responsibility for bringing them them knuckleheads like him and Yadwar. What was Yadwar?
Wait. I don't think you should do that to yourself.
Yeah,
I don't think you should do that to yourself, Sekou, because you know, I had the security section, and Gene Roberts got involved in the security section because of what's the name, Kinshasa brought him there and said he grew up with him and that he knew him and that was his homeboy. That's how he wound up in this, being where he was at least as far as I met him.
Well, Ralph Wyatt walked up to me in the streets in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
And
but I was talking about Gene Roberts.
I invited him in myself, you know.
But you know,
you could take that responsibility, but Gene Roberts is Kinshasa.
What I have trouble understanding about that Gene Roberts, that history, I don't understand. Maybe as learned and well read as most Panthers were when the Panthers came to New York, why didn't we know that he was Malcolm's bodyguard way before 68?
Because
why we didn't know that history about it, and why didn't it make that known to us?
Because of the radical tradition in New York, blood, has always been distorted. The Black radical history and Black radical tradition has always been distorted either by revisionism of time, like we're seeing now with Judas and the Black Messiah, and we see now with the movies that's coming out on the LA shootout with the Black Panther Party, when the first SWAT team that the police had in America was used against the Los Angeles chapter. So we need to understand how they rewrote this. That's why we didn't know up until that point. When did we think about Malcolm's murder?
He used that as a calling card.
Absolutely.
That was part of his calling card, that he had been a part of Malcolm's organization. People knew he had been what we didn't know, that he was the police in there. That's what we didn't know. But we knew he had been in there.
Nobody knew that.
Nobody knew that though. So, but it wasn't that nobody knew that he had been a part of the OAAU. That was known, blood.
And that was like a business card. That was like an asset.
That was like a business card. Yeah, that was his entrance.
I don't want to change the course of this discussion, but we were talking about politics earlier. Malcolm's widow, and Sekou, you may remember this, at Ocean Hill, Brownsville, she was out there protesting for decentralization of those schools. That was one of the big fights that went on in New York. If you remember that, Ocean Hill, Brownsville.
I remember it very well. I remember you and I working on it together.
I know you did. I know you do, Sekou.
All right.
You know, and your boy Netanyahu and the Jewish Defense League and that piece of shit. What was his name? Maya Kahani. They were all posted up in New York at that time.
Yeah.
And they had their own defense committee and their own relationship with the police. And in fact, during that particular time, so who could tell you about that they killed this, they ran over this young boy and killed him, and the hit and run driver fled to the Brooklyn Jewish community, and they protected him, and he wound up going to Israel. He wound up going to Israel, and now he's in Israel, probably in the Knesset, some goddamn.
Yeah, he was
but
let me jump in for a second, because I want to also.
I'm gonna have to leave you all. I'm sorry.
Right, that's what I'm gonna ask you right before you leave. This actually is about let's say you talked about there were different phases of the both the Panthers and BLA, and then there's this sort of second phase. It seems to be, again, from the outside what we read, of the BLA sort of forming with members of the Republic of New Africa and other members of the Weather Underground that became known, I guess, as the family or whatever. Can you talk a little bit, Sekou, right before you? I know you got to go, but it sounds like this is something you need to hit on. Sort of a little bit about how that formation came to be, because it seemed to be before that there was either a slowdown or there wasn't as much, let's say, action happening from a sort of a BLA point of view. And then it became this sort of second series of expropriations and some jailbreaks, let's say, that happened during that time.
I think what you've seen was the development of the BLA. I mean, people like in their family have, for instance, myself, Assata Shakur, and a couple of other brothers, we were all citizens of the Republic of New Africa. I joined the Republic of New Africa in 1968. So I became a conscious citizen of the Republic of New Africa in 1968. But going along with what our party demanded was that we couldn't be part of their army. We couldn't be part of their military structure. But as a citizen, and we had that argument with Eldridge and a few other them when they came to New York, when they were saying that we couldn't even be a part of that organization. And we were saying that we are citizens of this organization, of this here. We see them as a
well, you guys out in Jamaica, Queens was always strange. But you guys out in Jamaica was
no, I mean, but the politics of that is
y'all used to be.
That
Yeah, y'all used to be bishops too. Y'all used to be bishops too.
Yeah, he was.
I'm just joking, man. I'm just joking.
Anyhow, there were those who in the party that
what's happening?
Related to land and independence from the start. Those of us who come from out of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, those of us who related to that. We heard Malcolm when he said revolution was about land, about bloodshed. It ain't about, and we took that to heart. And when the folks from the Republic of New Africa organized it, Queen Mother Moore, the Gotti brothers from out of Detroit, Imari and them, what's his name? Ferguson, Herman Ferguson, different people like that. These we were already had our own connection with these people already. People like Dr. Matulu Shakur. That was a kid that came up under me. I met Dr. Shakur when he was 13 years old, running behind me, wanting to get involved in stuff. You know, so it wasn't like we reinvented that in the 80s. We just come to light in the 80s. That's when we start falling. A lot of us got captured in the early 80s, but we've been struggling right on through from the 60s. That wasn't something that all of a sudden happened in the 80s, but we had developed to a higher level of struggle. Yeah, and we had organized some support groups that wasn't all New Africans. Some of them were European, some of them were Puerto Rican. Specifically, those two white radicals and Puerto Ricans. We were able to organize some support committees, some support groups out of those communities that we were able to do some good work with. So when you see that in 1981, what they call the family, that was something that became, what's the word I can say? The media developed that there. They gave us that name. But of course, we call ourselves a family. We did call ourselves a family, but that wasn't an organizational name. It's just like,
well, I think
one of my brothers, the blood, one of my brothers. We family.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I think people don't understand that in New York especially was a hotbed of Black nationalism and radical Black politics. It's always been that way. And as Sekou pointed out, you know, he was an actor, and I mentioned this. He and Lumumba and Blood, they were activists before they joined the party. And if you notice, most of the activists from New York and from the East Coast had African names, and to the West Coast, because they were besieged by likes of that piece of shit Karanga, you know, because they were besieged by him and the cultural nationalists on the West Coast, they thought everybody with an African name must have been a pork chop nationalist like Karanga. But of course, that was a mistake. But having said that, Sekou is absolutely right. We have always had a nationalist tradition, a solidarity tradition. Some of the brothers were even like a Bob Collier. He was in the Statue of Liberty case. He was with Ram. You see, so we need to understand that at that point in '71, when Kwame Ture left, we met at David Brothers' house with Lumumba. I believe Sekou was there, and he had just came back from talking to Lumumba's Baba, who was a renowned nationalist in Philadelphia. Zaid and Lumumba's father, Sekou,
Was
know
that
him well.
Saladin Shakur? Was that
I believe
Saladin?
so. Was that
Yeah.
that was solid? Yes, he was a renowned nationalist, and he was of a previous generation of Sekou in them,
Yeah.
And I didn't know him.
One thing that Sekou pointed out to me, and I was kind of shocked because I didn't know. The brother that was captured, that was murdered along with Sekou was captured, he comes from the RNA.
Who?
Of course he does. Everybody know that.
No, a lot of people don't know that.
Who are you talking about?
You talking about the
killed with you when you got captured.
Oh yeah, Umtari Shakur.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, he come out of their military. He was one of their. He was with what's his name, Elijah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who was the first minister of defense of the RNA?
And that was
I think
Fulani
the point
Suri
should be-
Ali's father.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
that's who it was. Yeah, he was.
I think the lesson to be learned from this is that the struggle that required revolutionary politics and required the type of armed response, or the type of response, extralegal response, was imbued and endowed with revolutionary fervor because of the parent organization they belonged to, whether it was the RNA or the BPP. If we notice, I know people are going to besiege you, Jared, but if you notice, you could take the Nation of Islam with the fruit. You never seen the fruit of Islam on any frontline struggle. In fact, you never seen the nation, in fact, on any frontline struggle in the civil rights or in the radical movement. They were always self-contained. They never got involved in that type of politics. They were on that. And so we need to understand that Sekou, who said he was a citizen before he was in the party, we need to understand that this was not, Sekou wasn't the exception. Fred Hampton was in the NAACP in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So
let me just say this here though. Because I'm getting ready to leave. I'm sorry.
And Baba Sekou, could you add to your final comments here anything that you would want to tell people about the resurgence of any attention to Assata Shakur? The Assata taught me. Sir, could you say a word or two about that too, please?
I'll say, just to say that first. No, let me just finish what I was going to say first. I want people to understand that there was not everyone that was part of BLA was not part of the Black Panther Party.
Right, that's right.
And that should be made clear. That the BLA came up as a response to the violence of the pigs in our community, and they all and people, you see it, and people see it and wanted to be a part of a response to that. And so I worked with brothers from Louisiana that knew nothing about the Black Panther Party. Yeah. Had never been even around the Black Panther Party. The crew I worked with from out of New Orleans.
I wanted to add.
But let me just answer his question for him. Then I'm gonna leave, blood. The question was what, bro?
I was just wanting you to comment, given your intimate experience working with her in some capacity. Assata, the resurgence of reference to her.
People always holding her up and using her quote. I like to tell people that she was part of a movement. She wasn't somebody just out by herself. She was a part of a movement. And people need to remember that. And she was. There's people in prison because of her. Mm-hmm. Mutulu Shakur, one of his cases is for helping to liberate her. Sundiata Acoli was with her on that highway.
Fateful day, yeah.
And no one ever calls his name. No one ever hollers free Sundiata Acoli, an 84-year-old revolutionary who's still standing strong. I talked to him 2 days ago. He called me. people need to understand that she was part of a movement, and if they're going to support her, they need to support everybody that was part of that movement. And we have political prisoners today that were part of the same movement that she was a part of. The brother that Blood is talking about us going out to memorialize in a couple of weeks. He was part of that movement. She come out of the Black Panther Party movement, a Black liberation movement. And the other brothers and sisters who come out of that movement needs the same respect, the same honor that she gets. And people ought to give them that. Because these brothers and sisters gave their own sacrifice. They lived a life that allows us to live as comfortable as we live today. And they pulled some of these pigs up off our asses, just like she did, you know. So we have to remember that she's part of a movement, and we need to relate to that movement, not just to relate to her as an individual.
Well,
Yes,
thank you, Baba
absolutely.
Sekou, and I just wanted to say, for me personally, not to just, I want to
Get some
salute
ice
you
in the
very
glass.
much. Thank you very much for coming through. It's been an honor to get to rap with you a little bit here. I only got to meet you the one time in DC at Sister Nkechi Taifa's place a couple, I don't know, years ago after you got out, or a year after you got out or whatever. So it's a pleasure to have you on here and to hear from you again. I appreciate you, and thank you again.
And Daruba, we got to do this together again. I mean, because this is, I would love to sit down with my brothers and just really talk some of this history. We've been talking about doing this for a while and haven't did it yet.
You jog a lot of memory in me, man. Brought things back that I'm gone. But I want to say this about BLA and people in the BLA not being Panthers. Most, not in the cells that I worked in, we had 4 individuals, because the prisoners who went to jail prior to us, they were training people and sending them to us. My co-defendant, Shah Brown, was never in the Black Panther Party. Woody Green, he was never a Black Panther Party member. They were sent to us from the penitentiary.
Joe Chink. Yep, Joe Chink. A lot of, yep.
And we need to honor those people also, you know, because
Exactly.
You know,
right.
You know, a lot of people don't know that the Black Panther Party stopped membership right before the Panther 21 was arrested. And so everybody that came into the party was a community worker after that. Assata Shakur became a member when I actually took her down to the office and had her fill out a membership and had a member. But her whole NCCF up on Washington Heights were NCCF community workers.
Yeah.
And they were BLA cadre.
Okay, I'm going.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Peace,
everybody. Freedom land. Thank you, Baba.
All right, so alaikum, brother.
A lot of folks want to know about. A lot of folks always have questions about some individual Panthers, and one of the folks, I guess he obviously died years earlier, but Balagoon often comes up around one of the Panthers or the BLA members that people hear about but don't know a lot about. Can you guys talk a little bit about Balagoon and his work?
He was a soldier. That motherfucker, that clown in them streets. Believe that.
Yeah, but he started out as in the Yoruba community in Harlem. Of all places, he was a cultural activist in Harlem with the Yoruba community there that would later relocate in, I think, North Carolina somewhere. And he was like you said, he's a soldier, and he gave the first time I met Kwesi was when we opened up the Harlem office, and he was living in a squat. He had taken over a apartment building, him and his wife Ife. And they were living in a tenement building that they had taken over with the tenants, and they weren't paying rent, and they were living in there. It was an occupied tenancy, and that was at the height of the tenant strike with Jesse Gray and them in New York. And so he was involved.
May Mallory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so I think, but the reason why, one of the reasons why Kwesi seems to resonate is the same reason that we know about that this generation knows about Assata and doesn't know about Sundiata. They know about an Elaine Brown, but they don't know about Kathleen Cleaver. Or they do recognize Kathleen Cleaver, but they assume that Angela Davis was in the Black Panther Party, which she was never a member of. Okay, they make all these assumptions because these are Black women, and you have a generation of Black women who are being raised who need sheroes, who need heroines, who need a connection to struggle that's not male oriented. In this age of intersectionality, that's crucial.
Right. I just want to say very quickly, since her name was just mentioned, we are going to have a biographer of Mae Mallory coming on BPM in the very near future. I think the first week of June, in fact, a new book coming out about her, and she'll be coming on. Forgive me, the biographer's name, the sister's name is escaping me at the moment, but she'll be on shortly. So we want to continue that story. Yeah, go ahead, Blood. Go ahead.
I want to say this about Mae Mallory. Mae Mallory was a revolutionary to her soul. That woman didn't pick up no gun that I know of, but she taught them sisters in the party how to destroy them big chain grocery stores by taking a razor blade and just cutting fruit up in there. You know, Mae Mallory was a soldier. You know, never carried a gun that I know of, but like she taught her Fanny and all those people, you know, that you can do damage other than picking a firearm.
Wow. By the way, just quickly, I'm putting it in the chat now. The book that's coming out is Mae Mallory, The Monroe Defense Committee and World Revolutions by Paula Seniors. And Paula will be joining us, Professor Seniors will be joining us at sometimes early June. But anyway, go ahead.
I'm glad you mentioned Mae Mallory because of the fact I was just talking about her a few days ago. When you talk about folks like Mae Mallory and Fulani Suni Ali, Queen Mother Moore, these are revolutionaries that happen to be women. You know what I mean? And they're often forgotten about. So I'm glad that y'all bigging her up because her work with Robert Williams and so many other people was tantamount.
Yeah. And that sister out of Cambridge, Maryland, Malcolm talks to Richardson.
Yeah, Gloria Richardson.
Gloria, yep.
Yeah, Gloria, and Flo Kennedy in New York.
There you
Flo
go.
Kennedy, Flo Kennedy in New York. Girlfriend was bad, and she was the one that mentored Shirley Chisholm on a lot of stuff.
Okay.
But listen, if I can, the other day on Renegade Culture, I mentioned this classic panel I heard you on years ago, Daruba, with Amiri Baraka and John Henrik Clark, hosted by Alambe Brath, and you were all being critical of Malcolm Spike Lee film or Spike Lee's Malcolm X film that was coming out. And you made a point that's, I think, if I understand the timeline, it may be in somewhat in contradiction to something Blood said a few minutes ago, because Blood had talked about the importance of the community support to the BLA. But during that panel, you made a statement I've quoted on a number of occasions where you said something to the effect that too many people in the community believed the anti-Panther propaganda that inhibited the work you all were trying to do in the community. So I'm wondering if you all could talk a little bit about, or maybe correct my memory here, but it sounds like, your Blood, you were saying you had a lot, at least the BLA had a lot of support among the community, but Daruba, you were saying, at least to a certain extent, at least with the Panthers and maybe not BLA, that the anti-Panther propaganda worked against your work within the community.
No, it was the opposite. I think I brought attention to the fact that there was a survey taken in 1970, I believe, by CBS or some poll, and the Black Panther Party poll number 2, when people were asked what was the organizations that you respected the most, Black people, over 70% of them said that they supported and felt that the SCLC was an organization that they respected in the Black Panther Party because the Black Panther Party was being repressed. Everybody could see it by the police, and that the police hated the Panthers. So the Black Panther Party was actually very popular. But the thing is that the propaganda and those Boule Negroes who came out of the war on poverty, the same step and fetches that we got now, these Negroes who were moving to the right, as Sekou said, who were already on the right, who were on AIPAC's tip, who were down with former Mayor Lindsay and Ed Koch and all these crackers in New York and the Policemen's Benevolent Association, all of those boule niggas that came out of the anti-poverty movement, they were the ones that the COINTELPRO had soured and talked against us and spoke against us. Howard University, for instance, offered their facilities for our Constitutional Convention, what they call it. We had a preliminary meeting for the Constitutional Convention that we were going to hold in Philadelphia in 1971. And Howard University offered their facilities for us. And at the last minute, they pulled it. And we found out later in the counterintelligence documents that the FBI had leaned on the chancellor, whoever it was at Howard, and said that we were anti-Semitic and racist, and that Howard University was going to be painted into this corner and wouldn't get no Jewish money and all that bullshit. And they kicked us under the bus. So we didn't do it. We had to do it in churches in the area.
Right. Let me say this here about the black community in BLA. They supported us fully. Most people, houses we stayed in, they weren't in the Black Liberation Army, other movement.
People don't know them to this day. That's right.
When we lost guns out there in them gun barrels, they furnished guns to us. You know, the black community, oh my God, man. I've been in Florida, no support. They opened their houses up, gave us weapons. You understand? I mean, like the contribution to the black community, to the BLA, is unbelievable. You know, they may not have wanted to be identified because of jobs and because of whatever, but they supported us. They definitely.
Well, how do you respond then to the critique? Where folks offer a critique, right? That it was too soon for BLA, right? It was the community wasn't primed for it, wasn't ready for it. It was easy for the enemies of black radicalism or black movement to make you guys or make folks look like they're the boogeyman or all that kind of stuff. How do you respond to the critique that it may not be too soon? Yeah.
One of the things you have to keep in mind that BLA was supported immensely by the black community. You know, they gave us housing, they gave us weapons.
In front of absolutely.
When we got
urban guerrillas.
They kept us.
Urban guerrillas depend on the people. That's right. Urban guerrillas and any guerrillas are supposed to be fishing in the sea of the people. Isn't that Mao's axiom? And you could believe what Blood is saying is true. And we got that way, especially in places like Brooklyn and Manhattan, because when we were selling papers in the community, when we were out in the community, Abdul, Blood, we'd be sitting up there playing checkers and stuff in the community with the masses, drinking wine. We was in pool halls and all of that stuff. So when we went underground, we still had that rapport in the community. The people knew that we were for real. The people knew that. And to this day, I want to end with this. To this day, there are people that help the BLA that nobody knows about. So I want to give a shout out to all of these old school people that's out there listening. Right on.
And if you ever see that movie 21 Bridges about New York, and so at any rate, we was locked down in New York and couldn't get out for 2 weeks. The women that put us in the trunk of a car and drove us to Cleveland, they were bank tellers. They didn't know a damn thing about the BLA. And it was it's an 8-hour drive. They went out there, Sunday night we arrived, came out of the trunk, they had some food, and got back on the road, went to New York. We couldn't have did that because all the activists was monitored. Them that was not out there. So we had to depend upon those people. And there are people in the Black Panther Party who had those connections who never went underground. They kept us moving. We couldn't survive without them. But people getting shot, man, we had a lawyer, a doctor, he's dead now. They had a saying about him. If you can get to him, you got a 90% chance of surviving.
Well, people don't know that Assata was medical cadre.
Yeah.
That's how Assata came into the party. She was medical cadre. So we had people in Harlem Hospital, like when Victor got shot and some other folks got shot. We had people in Harlem Hospital that would lend us the instruments and the tools, and even the facility on the DL if we needed it. And that's important because we know the gunshots, wounds got to be reported to the police, right? So so how did we survive? It was the masses of people, power to the people.
There are people who've been wounded, seriously wounded. Doctors working in these hospitals, get him to a motel. We'll keep them alive. And they did that. And went back to work and did their business. They are unsung heroes.
They are.
He's dead now. Bert, what's his name? Burke's out of Brooklyn, the white doctor.
Oh, Burke, yeah.
Oh yeah. What's his first name?
Alan.
Alan Berkman.
Yeah. His daughter is still active in organizing.
If their doctor, if it hadn't been for him, and when like people like Prime who had 4 or 5 gunshot wounds, when they did the autopsy, old wounds. So like that support, man. So many people, man, that contributed. It makes me think about Harriet Tubman, all the people on the Underground Railroad who lent their help and whatnot. We don't know about them people.
This reminds me of Che Guevara when he was talking about being in Bolivia. People, when you talk about guerrilla warfare and whatnot, guerrilla warfare is not you walking around with a whole bunch of equipment and all types of, you need the help of the people, and Che talked about how folks would leave food out in pots hanging outside of their homes. So when they pass by, they'll have something to eat. You know what I mean? So definitely shout out to those folks. And I also want to say for the viewers, Sekou served 33, 34 years in prison. Daruba another 19. So to have these brothers on BPM right now is an honor, and that's one of the reasons we need to support political prisoners, because of the fact that they're coming out. They can come out. You know what I mean?
Hey, I gotta say, man, forget the interruption, but seeing blood smoking cigarettes on the porch reminds me of the story I've always read of John Horse, one of the few revolutionaries to make it and live out his old age on his porch. So I feel like I'm getting to talk to John Horse.
Listen,
I love seeing it, man. I love it, man.
You know what Assata Shakur used to say about this before he got busted? She used to say about Sundiata. She said, Sundiata looked like somebody's grandfather and would be sitting on a porch somewhere with a pipe in his mouth, Yeah, so but looks so deceiving.
No doubt.
That's it.
We survived that way, There are certain individuals who could drive cars on highways because of their demeanor.
Right.
And there was other motherfuckers who had frowns on their face. They wouldn't let them go through toll booths driving through
that would be Daruba. I got Daruba stories too. We'll come back to at another date in different states.
I got Juju working for me. If I drive
120 miles an hour.
If I'm doing 120 miles an hour in a
going
red
through
Mustang,
Mississippi,
in a red Mustang going through Mississippi with dreadlocks, them cracker police will look at me and they see a rabbi driving a limousine.
Well, I ain't feel like no rabbi in the back seat. I'm gonna tell you
That's
that right now.
That cloak. That cloak defense that they got in Star Wars where they cloak the ship. I had that.
That's how they said Harriet worked.
But I wanted to actually, the idea about expropriations, particularly of banks. That just takes a lot of bravery and forethought. And I'm just curious about, obviously the reason to do it is because that's where the money is. But the fact that y'all developed the ideas around, look, we need to fund revolutionary activity in different ways. How to go into what you can, of course, doing that work.
But let me say this: Blood and I never robbed a bank in our life. We never expropriate anything from anybody. We always believed in the Black Panther Party legacy and program. Take not one single needle from the masses of people. Now, having said that, we could say that, you know, the banks, the institutions of finance capital, of course, have always been a primary target of any revolutionary organization, as well as the counterfeiting of money. And now that weed is legalized, I guess that could be done without, you know, without stick-up kids and all of that stuff. But
Talk about check on the
but
tomorrow down in Uruguay.
yeah,
They
exactly.
stole
Some of the best hash out of the Middle East came from the PFLP. They grew some good stuff. And so we need to understand that that often finance capital and the criminal enterprises of capitalism are prime targets for revolutionary movements and organizations to fund their activities. And then sometimes certain activities like you know, the after hour clubs for the drug dealers became training exercises for newer members in the underground. So yeah, we became very good at it in a sense that none of us, very few of us, if anyone, actually captured doing this or killed actually doing this. These expropriations. So we must have been pretty good at it.
We were very conscious that of the people that was in the bank. I don't remember anybody being shot that was making
or injured,
injured inside those banks or whatnot. Because myself, we had a saying that we simply come in there to make a withdrawal.
That's right. Unauthorized.
And the
unauthorized withdrawal.
Yeah, and the 9mm is our bank book. You know?
Right.
So we you know, that's where the money is at. That's where the money
well, you know, technology has changed now. We could probably do the same thing on the keyboard, you know, with Bitcoins. But you ain't gonna do that, blood, because you couldn't even log on. But I'm out of it too, man. I'm out of it too. I could hardly get YouTube.
Hey, y'all made Kamal leave, man. Kamal, like, hold on. The lawyer bounced. He was seriously fell off as soon as you started talking about that. They've gone too far. But real quick, I want to say we mentioned that you all mentioned going out to check out Chip Fitzgerald's Memorial Blood. We'll be there covering it. We'll have folks from BPM. You know what I mean? So definitely Black Power Media will be, I believe that's June 5th. 3rd through 5th.
One thing,
June 5th is the anniversary. I got arrested. I got captured June 5th.
Well, we're gonna try not to celebrate that one though, brother.
Chip.
That's true.
Thank you. Chip. Yeah. Prior to him getting captured, he had after the first pig he dealt with, he got shot in the back of his ear, his head. Never went to the doctor. When they captured him, he had a little band-aid over it. You know, he was another soldier. You know that if they ever write about people, man, like I mean,
like him, like Twyman, like the brother Sekou. I mean, if I could write, if I had the money to write a Hollywood action movie or action drama, Sekou, I don't know who I would get to play Sekou, but because Sekou would be like too cool. But man.
Tell us about some of those escapes with Sekou, man.
Sekou and Twyman, man. I mean, Sekou, when they came, the reason why he got to Africa is because when they came to get him, you know, he had his window, there was a fire escape, and they had the fire escape covered. They was outside the fire escape window. They was outside the door in the hallway. So the only place to go out was out the kitchen window or something down a drain pipe that was next to the window. And he was like 4 stories up.
Yeah.
Sekou went down the drain pipe, and they had the neighborhood closed off. Sekou went down the drain pipe, through the alley, through the backyard, and the next time you heard from Sekou, he was on the telephone in Algiers.
So that's the scene right there. You
tell me that
you're gonna slide down and cut these in Algiers.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. That man got some stories, bro.
I mean,
but listen. I want to say something while we're on here, because I know it can't be done on here, but somehow I need you all to transmit all of these actual stories in their full, complete way, even if you have to do it off the record or offline, so that we can have them. Like a lot of us don't know some of the gaps in those stories, and I know if they're not appropriate for public consumption, we need to hear them so that in some way we can start to compile that history and save that, even if it's just oral traditions off the record. Like,
that's what I'm doing with that's what I'm doing with Orisani.
Okay, good.
Yeah. We understand that we have to do these chronicles and we have to put them down. You know, the names just have to be changed to protect the guilty. But yeah. I absolutely, and that's the reason why I wanted, and that's the reason why Jared, I believe, agreed to do this in a series, because we have more comrades like Ashanti, who I wanted to be on here too.
Yeah.
We have other comrades who are at different stages and different points in the BLA and the BPP, and so they have extra information and insights to give to our people. And the radical history and the radical tradition of Black people is something that now the enemy is bent on trying to revise and remarket, because this mass media allows for that in very succinct, in very easy, in a very easy way. I think it's very, this is one of the reasons why we hear excuse me, I hear academics, you know, I saw one professor who gave a thesis on the Black Panther Party, who said that the Black Panther Party raised, basically, she don't know why people have a problem with Black Lives Matter getting funding, because the Black Panther Party got its money from selling books and the writings of their leaders. There's nothing further from the truth. The Black Panther Party raised the majority of its funds and its operational funds from selling the Black Panther Party newspaper and Black Panther Party posters and stuff like that. A certain percentage went to the local chapter, and the rest went to national headquarters. I used to pick up the paper at the airport, and the enemy knew this. They said this in a COINTELPRO memos, that the Black Panther Party's major source of funds and its major means of support community support came from its Black Panther Party community news service, its paper. And that was one of the geniuses of Bobby and Huey when we were studying revolutionary activities, is that Mao Zedong had said that a revolutionary organization has to have a face-to-face relationship with the masses of people. It has to have its own organ. It has to have its own voice. And that's what we did with the Black Panther Party newspaper, to the point where the federal government actually used to ship papers from New York they would ship them to Canada, they would ship them to Florida, and when I would go to the airport, they would tell me, "Oh, that shipment is still on the plane and is going to so and so." It wasn't this is what they did to disrupt this.
Let me say something about that. The group is right. One of the things that the COINTELPRO did, papers coming out of California, they would sit the plane down in Detroit. They would take the insert of the paper out and put lies in there. Ship it on to where it's going to. We read the shit on the East Coast, they say they ain't never heard of that shit. So, you know, they were real clever in terms of how they tried to fuck us around, but
how they tried to paint us into a corner in the new left with other organizations, with white organizations that were supporting us, whether it was legal organizations, whether it was churches. People don't know, for instance, that my bail was posted by a Catholic church. And Afeni's bail was posted by Black clergy. So we need to understand that the Black Panther Party, there was an act, the COINTELPRO went after the support network of the Black Panther Party. If people remember that book written by that Gore Vidal called Bonfire of the Vanities and stuff like that. This was partly a takeoff after Leonard Bernstein's meeting with the Black Panther, with the families and members of the Black Panther Party to support the Panther 21. And Leonard Bernstein was hounded into anxiety attacks by the media, because he was portrayed as a self-hating Jew who supported the anti-Semitic organization like the Black Panther Party. They had a letter writing campaign called Dear Irving, in which a so-called member of the Communist Party was writing to their leadership complaining about Charlene Mitchell, who was a Black woman and who was in charge of Angela Davis's defense committee and everything, and who was running for president or the leadership in the Communist Party. And so she was associating with revolutionary terrorists who were anti-Semitic and anti-Israel. So we should understand that it was our newspaper, our ability to communicate our mass line, to communicate our party line to the masses of people, masses of Black people, so that we would always be clear about what we stood for, what our community should be doing, and how we should be moving. And of course, that's not done today with hashtag movements, because you have internet gangsters, you have internet activists, internet revolutionaries, and you have hashtag movements where people never even see each other face to face, hardly. Right. And so organizing these hashtag movements leaves them wide open to infiltration, to confusion, and to madness. And we know that doesn't work. And it's all coming to culmination today when we see the millions of dollars that's been given to a hashtag movement that like Black Lives Matter movement or whatever you want to call it. And that money would have never went to these people if they would if it was hashtag Black Liberation Movement. If it was Black Liberation Movement, they wouldn't have got a dime.
That's right.
They wouldn't have got a dime.
One of the things. No, I was going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. But I just want to say that so we really need to understand the importance of a movement having a voice and a face-to-face relationship with the masses of people. Without that, you understand, you become what, hands up, don't shoot. You become, Black Lives Matter. You become things that we know sound crazy. What movement is called hands up, don't shoot? Huh? The universal sign of surrender. Everybody around the world knows when you put your hand up, you finished. And we know that the police will shoot us with our hands up. So why would we go to a demonstration and stand before these crackers that have automatic weapons and say, don't shoot? Are we stupid? And then you have Black Lives Matter. Black lives ain't never mattered in America. White folks, they didn't mind Black folks. They was mind over matter. White folks didn't mind, Black folks didn't matter. So why are you going to tell Black folks that your life matters when you know they don't give a fuck about your Black ass? Your life will matter when they start coming home in body bags. When they got to deal with body bags, and you say Black Lives Matter, well, why can't we settle this beef? Huh? Kissinger didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize alone. He got it with Lee Doc-To. And Lee Doc-To was speaking for who? He was speaking for Ho Chi Minh and the NLF and the North Vietnamese. He was speaking for people who were shooting at that time he was talking. Okay? So we need to understand that white folks ain't never conquered the people, ain't never created institutions of white supremacy where you didn't have to abolish those institutions and where you didn't have to kick them crackers out your country. Nowhere have they ever went. They left voluntarily.
I've got to split. It's almost 1. So I have an appointment I'm trying to follow up on.
You got an appointment?
Listen.
An appointment with Black man?
Listen, first of all,
Black people.
First of all, brother Blood, it was an honor to meet you and to get to talk with you. And anytime you want to come back and do some more, we're happy to have you. As Daruba said, we intend for this to be a series. So there's so many more questions and so much more we want to talk with you all about. So anytime we can provide an outlet, please let us know, or any support or any help at all, please let us know.
Yeah, and don't worry about what Daruba talking about. We know you got your camera on point now.
Man, that's my man. Blood got this, man. You know that. He only got to do it once. He got that.
No doubt.
Right
All
on.
right, be strong, brother.
All right, take good care.
What's that you got there, Kane?
Yeah, you gonna get one.
Oh, you got one of them sword canes, huh?
Oh, yeah, you gonna get one too.
Man, shit.
He said
Man,
you
I
gonna
can't
get one.
even I can't even move my neck, man. I don't know what you talking about.
Man. Oh, let me say this shit to you guys, man. Do you know the San Quentin Six? There was a brother named David Johnson, and he's
Sundiata.
Huh?
Sundiata. David Johnson.
No, not Sundiata.
Oh, David Johnson. Okay, okay.
But David Johnson, he's paralyzed, man. You know, so I just want to give a shout out about that. You know, he's down
And that
in
what?
San Antonio, Texas.
Oh man, I didn't know that. Yeah, I need try to get some word to him. Thanks for letting us know, because he contributed to our George Jackson work on top of that too. So appreciate him. Yeah,
He was BGF, one of the generals.
Yeah, he was in the BGF.
that's right.
I saw him when I went out the last time. The comrades, in fact,
With Shaka.
no, this was a long time ago. He was in the
Indeed, there was a
hospital when I
question
went
about
there.
the relationship.
We were out there together, and we went to see that brother in the house.
Yeah, that was the same brother, right?
No, that was the bomber. He placed the
okay.
up under the police station. He died. The guy we went to see in the home, he eventually died. David Johnson was one of the brothers that went out there with us, carried us out to the nursing home he was in.
Okay,
But,
okay.
yeah, man, so many of us leaving here, man. I'm trying to hang around. I want to live forever.
Yeah, stick around, brother.
You too bold to grow old, brother.
Yeah, they told me that.
You too bold to grow old, black.
You think so?
Yeah, we too black to crack, man. Fuck these crackers. Excuse me. I know I'm not supposed to use that profanity. Now my fiance is looking at me like, oh my God, how could you talk like that?
He can delete it. He'll take it out.
Nah, we're gonna keep it.
How could you talk like that?
Yeah, we not censored
in a
over here,
5-star
blood.
lobby. Everybody looking at me.
All right.
And I'm talking loud too.
All right, take it easy, blood.
All right, take care, blood, man. Appreciate you, man.
Okay, black man.
And
man, is that how you exited, man? Exit stage right on the cane, man.
Yeah, Garrett.
Come on, man. You making us look bad, bro.
I'm in fact, this is a blessing, because when I go to the airport and I tell a motherfucker to bring me a wheelchair.
You know, my man was telling me I should use that wheelchair shit at the
you
airport,
should.
man. That way I can get over, man.
I'm gonna make the
Because they do. But I told them I'm already in that TCF or whatever they call. You know, because the first thing I tell them, man, I say, look, man, they talk about you take off your shoes. I said, man, I'm 76 years. I ain't taking shit off. They said, okay, old man, go ahead, man.
About 3 years ago, I was at Rio de Janeiro, and I was out there lifting up all the people, and most time I put me in a wheelchair, man, I struggled to put the cane down and every fucking thing. I'm gonna tell you something, man. If you get a chance, man, go to Rio. I should have went 40 years ago. It's a motherfucker down there.
Man.
Jesus Christ.
All right, take it.
Yeah, all right, man, you almost out of here, brother.
Yeah, I'm almost.
You're almost out.
They have to roll me.
Oh, Blood's a funny dude.
You safe, blood.
All right, y'all be good, man. Good
All right, you take care, man.
Right
All
on.
right, brother.
All right.
Peace.
Oh man.
Blood's a funny dude, man. That's my man.
Yeah, crazy, man.
Oh boy.
Hey, well, listen,
So,
AD, go ahead, man.
So how did that go, Jared? I mean, are we still on there?
We're still on. We can wrap up at any moment. I think it's been great, and I can't wait to do another one. So anytime you all want to set it up, just put the word out.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to get Ashanti. What's the name? Up in that's with Kalanji, you know him too. Jihad.
Yeah, Jihad. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to get Ashanti, Jihad, and who else?
Maybe Bilal Sunni Ali might be good to bring on as well.
Yeah, maybe Bilal. What's the name? Oh man, I got to talk about Alzheimer's.
From where? Where's he from?
I got an Alzheimer moment. What's his name?
From where?
He's from Philly.
Not Maroon. No, well, he can't come anyway. So who we talk about?
No, but you see, the thing is, I don't know about Mumia. just to have Mumia on, period. You know, because Mumia be doing broadcasts from jail.
Yeah, I
Has he
think
ever
they,
did a Zoom? Has he ever did a Zoom?
nah,
Not that
they,
I'm aware of. No, I don't think so. They usually get them
But
on
he's
a phone.
and do the live broadcast. They record over
Well,
the
I don't know
phone.
about a live, but they record. But I haven't
Oh,
heard from him lately, though.
oh,
yeah,
he's
yeah, what
because
it
he's in
is.
serious.
He's
Yeah,
not.
he's
He's not healthy
seriously.
enough. Yeah.
No, he's not well. He's not
Um,
well at all.
We're gonna
But,
shoot for some of the folks on the west too. Maybe Kamasi and OG Shaka and some of the folks
Yeah,
on that
OG
side of
Shaka
things.
would be good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So,
But we definitely want to keep doing this to the point where people would understand that that self-defense is not something that's delusional, and it's not something that we should concede. I mean, you know, when Jared asked the question about, well, do we see any value in electoral politics? And we tried to point out that we were always involved in electoral politics, but we were involved as abolitionists rather than reformists. So when we talked about community control of the police in New York and decentralization of police, that wasn't about reform. That was about abolition of policing in New York based on the command structure from the mayor to the head of the police, the commissioner, and based on the fact that the new NYPD is broken down into precincts that have a commander who's not responsible to the community public safety board, but responsible to his superior, who's responsible to the guy in City Hall. Okay. And because the police union exerts all of those politics and all of that pressure on politicians, they therefore have to abide by and conform to the dictates of the police union. And this is one of the reasons why the police union got so heavily involved in decentralization of police. And if you notice, in terms of defunding the police, when you use that term, it's a meaningless, it's an oxymoron. The state is never going to defund its armed agents. That's stupid. No state is going to do that. Okay, they may redirect the funds, but they're still going to get back to do exactly what the armed agents of the state are supposed to do. So therefore, using the term defund the police when the police budget in the city might be like $500 million, so what you're going to give $200 million to daycare and to schools and all to that stuff? Is that what you're going to do? And then the other 300 million goes to the same police that's doing the same shit, like they can't function with 200 million less. Okay, so defund the police is another example of how hashtag movements and activists today who have no relationship or no understanding of their own radical history, if come up with these things. If the average radical today, and you got a lot of revolutionary young brothers and sisters out there in the streets who stand in the streets, who's trying to organize the masses of people, who's trying to do the right thing. But if they're not in touch with their radical tradition, they don't even realize that we already did that. We already had that fight and won. Why do we keep revisiting Voting Rights Act every year and we won? How's that possible? Every year we're talking about Voting Rights Act in some form or the other, and we won that struggle, what, 64 sometime? 67. When was that, the Voting Rights Act?
65.
So yes, this is what I'm saying. This is 2021, and we're still talking about voting rights? Come on, man, how dumb can you be? And this comes from a basic, simple flaw in the idea of Pan-African and Black nationhood in the diaspora. We have no sense of being a people. We have no sense of peoplehood. And without the sense of peoplehood, you are only going to come up with reforms, never abolition. It's never about power.
Real quick,
it's always about reform.
Before we wrap up, I got a slightly different question. I've been asked separately, and I'm interested in what you all think about this. What American Black leader do you think most connected to Fanon? And did anyone do it directly?
You talking about national leader or local leader?
I'm just reading the question verbatim, so I don't know exactly what they mean here, but I'm assuming just anyone who did any Black leader,
the only elected politician,
not elected necessarily, just Black leadership period, who worked with or engaged Fanon.
Well, I know one brother for sure, and he's an elected official, and Kalonji knows him too, in New York, and that's Charles Barron. That's the only person that was in the radical movements. He was in the latter permutations of the Black Panther Party, who still talks about imperialism.
No, I'm talking about, but I mean directly, like actually met the man, worked with the man while he was.
Met Fanon and
yeah, met Fanon and worked for Fanon. That I don't have any. I don't know. Anybody in the chat got an answer? I don't know. That's an interesting question, but maybe we can come back to it. But yeah,
Fanon was 36 when he died,
and it was in 63. So, I know.
Yeah. So so that
and he didn't speak English. He spoke French.
Right.
And
he only came here to die. Right. They only brought him here to die. Right.
So it would be only of the French left that might know him. People that were in the French left at that, and maybe in the anti-colonial movement in the French left. I knew the Black Panther Party, of course, we had a lot of support in the French left. And I had talked to some older I mean, they were older than me then. When I came out of prison and did a tour of Europe in 1990, end of 1990, early 1991, I met a lot of the original cadre of the Paris left Communist Party, who supported the FALN, who supported the PLO, and they talked a lot about Algeria and about Ahmed Ben Bella. So some of them might have met Fanon.
Anyway, it was just I just saw the question come up.
I don't know anyone firsthand from our movement that have actually spoke with him now. With in terms of that other guy, Genet, the writer Genet. What's his first name?
I don't know.
Well, you read him. You know. Is it? What does it say again?
It's not Jean. Is it?
You talking about Jean-Paul Sartre? Sartre?
No, not Sartre. He wrote the intro to Wretched of the Earth. No,
I thought that was Sartre. Yeah, no.
That was Sartre. Yeah, but I'm talking about Jean Genet. Was it Jean Genet? He was a French writer who came to the U.S. and toured every Black Panther Party chapter. The Central Committee had him come around, and he wrote extensively. It's Jean Genet. He was a celebrated French writer, and I met him personally, and I know he had conversations because he mentioned that with Fanon.
Okay,
but I don't know any Black person, any Black activist that personally had that's alive, that's personally may have had some type of
Now I was just curious. I just saw the question I was asked. But listen, I know we gotta get ready to move here. But Ruba, I just want to thank you very much for helping us put this together. And anytime, like I said, we're happy to do this. And Kalonji, of course, Kamal, shout out to BPM for
Kenyatta for brow.
Brother Kenyatta, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Shout out to Kenyatta, because without him,
he browbeat me into this.
So I'll be reaching out to him to get some more brow beatings for the next one, because we need that to have. Talk about unsung heroes. Kenyatta's another one.
I think we need to do a joint on what am I talking about? New York, Attica. I think that we definitely need to do something around the Attica Rebellion.
Well, September is coming up.
Yeah.
And before we know it, it's going to be December. I mean, we almost through this year already, man. Believe it or not, this is amazing.
Look, we can do a whole series of these leading up to the Attica special in August, September for sure. How about that?
Yeah, you know what would be a good idea, seeing that you there in Atlanta, Kalonji, is to put together a format of maybe 3 programs leading up to the Attica Rebellion that talks about the prison movement, its relationship to the movement in the streets, and bring people up, like people that were in the BGF in jail, people like that were in the People's Party in New York, brothers that came out of prison, that knew people like Shasha and stuff like that. So we can get a feel that there was a prison movement in America during the Civil Rights Movement when Black people became the majority of the prison population. I
learned a lot about that from Kamasi on the West Coast as well.
So maybe you should talk about starting it out with him. There was on the East Coast, unfortunately, most of the brothers that could have gave you this, Blyden,
Jazz.
Rab Parker, Jazz. You know, they Jazz is alive, but he's not in no shape.
Going through it. Matter of fact, Cheney Evans told me to shout you out.
Hey, good people,
because
I
the
got
prison
to
movement-
run. I'm not gonna be the one to shut this down. Keep going as long as you like, but fellas,
No,
I got to
I gotta go to.
We
I
all
gotta go
leaving.
to-
We're gonna try to give me some
Oh,
work. If I say
I
that.
got.
Okay.
I want to. Stay on, Kalanji. I want to talk to you for 1 second.
So
All
we
right.
gonna log out. Then
I'll do a little outro to wrap this up, and then y'all can stay on as long as you want. But peace,
stay online.
everybody.
We'll do the outro.
Thanks everybody. I appreciate you.
Okay.
Thanks everybody coming through. Shout out to everybody doing this work, and thanks everybody for making this happen. We'll catch
No
you
doubt.
next time.
Salute.
Appreciate
See
you.
you on
Salute
Tuesday.
Tuesday morning.
All right,
Well, I'll be here Monday
Africa.
morning.
No
One
doubt.
Africa. There you go.
Yeah. Once again, thank you all for coming out, joining us on Black Power Media for the Remix Morning Show Reruns. And like I said, we remix it our own way. We will be back with the live remix show January. Did I say it right? Yeah. January 4th next year. So big up to all y'all in the chat room. Y'all be having full conversations. I love it. Hiram, Easy D, Ghetto Synonymous. Yeah, that right there. All y'all in the chat room, big up to y'all. We will see y'all next week with new shows. Make sure before y'all leave, y'all hit that like, subscribe button, and we'll be back with that remix, that boom bap breakfast. So that's what it is. Y'all have a great New Year's. Stay safe, and I'll see y'all Sunday for, I don't know what I'm gonna mix, but come back Sundays at 8 p.m. I'm gonna rock something for y'all. So big up to y'all. Peace.